After the Battle of Geonosis, this marked the very start of the Clone Wars. General consensus across the galaxy was in favor of this war. After all, the Separatists were led by known Sith Lord Count Dooku. But after years of fighting and countless systems being ravaged by the war, many started to think about peace and how the fighting could come to an end. Among those wishing for peace were the people of the Verona system. They'd been caught up in the war as the Republic had decided that their planet was perfect for a home base as a front on the Outer Rim sieges. And as the leader of the Democratic Republic, Chancellor Palpatine saw it fit that he go out and address the people's concerns himself. Considering it was a peaceful mission, the Jedi Council decided that they would attend just so they can provide some security. Despite the planet being a Republic stronghold and having multiple platoons of clone troopers, the Chancellor found it fit if Anakin and the 501st were there for some extra needed protection. The Verona system was known to be a very green planet. It had dense forests, lush vegetation, and lots of farmland. It was also home to many different species across the galaxy, and it was very densely populated. But it was also very advantageous for the Republic to have in its control, especially with considering the war against the Separatists. It provided many resources and agricultural needs to the Republic, but it was also situated in a place where it could be a stronghold for the Outer Rim sieges. Because of that, it was heavily fortified. It had many military installations on the planet, and here in the capital city on the planet, there was a very large clone installation with many troops stationed there. But despite some peaceful protests from citizens of Veronis, the troops hadn't seen any action quite yet on this planet. But that was about to change. Prior to the Republic presence on the Verona system, the planet was run by crime syndicates, whose leaders wished for an end to the war as well, since the Republic's presence forced them into the shadows and hurt business. Behind the scenes, it was believed that many of the protests were organized by the crime syndicates to get the war off their planet so they could return to normal. However, with the arrival of Palpatine, it showed the crime syndicate warlords that there was maybe more going on with this story. Why would the Chancellor of the Galaxy be coming to them after some simple peaceful protest? It didn't make sense. Considering Padme had spearheaded the peace negotiations within the Senate, she was asked to join the Chancellor to deal with these proceedings. Quickly following their arrival was the members of the Jedi Council, along with Captain Rex. They were here to provide security and ensure peace was maintained. Many of the citizens of the planet found it odd, as the streets were flooded with clone troopers of the 501st. Palpatine had saw it fit to have some extra padded security, but even the Jedi Masters thought it was a bit odd. After a quick security briefing and some shared words between the Chancellor and the Master Jedis, it was time to get the peaceful rally started. As Chancellor Palpatine took to the pavilion in the town square, many of the civilians gathered round to listen to what he had to say. Palpatine started by addressing the people's concern and want for peace. He stated that the Separatists would simply be doing the same, if not worse, to their planet if they hadn't stepped in and set up base here. And just as he was about to carry on how peace could be achieved, there was a loud noise in the skyline. It was the Separatist fleet. Soon after hearing the news, Chancellor Palpatine told the people that peace was not an option. War was inevitable, and they were about to get their first taste of that. Unfortunately, like most conflict in the Clone Wars, there were other darker forces at play. Palpatine knew if the war ended in peaceful negotiations, his plan to get rid of the Jedi would never come to fruition. Under direct command from General Grievous himself, the Separatist forces marched on the capital city here on Veronis. They began their siege of the city by taking out all of the scouts in the foreground leading up to the city. It seemed that a massive, large-scale battle was imminent. Behind the wall, panic ensued. The citizens that were previously attending the peaceful rally were running for their lives down different corridors and streets, just trying to get as far away from that main gate as possible. Meanwhile, all the clone troopers were readying up for a battle. A brief conversation between the Jedi Masters highlighted the timeliness of this Separatist attack, basically squashed any hope in getting peaceful negotiations started, and once again they had failed to uphold the peace and were headed into battle. The base defenses were put into action for the very first time, and it marked the start of the Clone War on Voronus. After rallying their troops, they were ready to head out and meet the Separatist forces face to face. As the two front lines of forces met, chaos ensued. There was explosions, death, and really everything you can think about when you think of a large-scale Clone Wars battle. Despite the chaos and destruction, these two factions were quite literally created to fight one another. They were unknowingly fulfilling their destiny as pawns in a much larger, darker game. Captain Rex, on the other hand, got a bit more innovative when it came to battle tactics. He wanted to flank the Separatist forces, so he got dropped off at a nearby farm. Upon landing, he noticed a batch of commando droids approaching a farmhouse. He also noticed the farmer outside hiding behind some crates. He and the farmer, along with a couple of his clone comrades, dispatched the commando droids pretty quickly, and he realized it was his old friend Cutla Quain. Before thinking, they carried on with the battle. As Captain Rex fought the commando droids on the farm, the battle on the bridge heated up. Forces had moved in, and the Jedi had got involved. There had already been many clone casualties, but as the three Jedi moved their way through and spearheaded the attack, they began to get the upper hand against the droid forces. And among those on the front lines was Fives, where he was classically punching a droid in the chest. But the battle wasn't just taking part on the front lines. There were many clones back at the base sending mortars and shooting off cannons to try to rid the planet of the Separatist forces, and it was working. As the battle raged on, the Republic forces were able to push past the bridge and cut through the lines of Separatist forces. The droids may have had numbers, but they were truly outmatched by the Jedi, especially with three of them there. They really stood no chance. Meanwhile, below the hill, Captain Rex and Cutla Quain had dispatched all of the droids in that vicinity and were quickly reacquainting themselves. Up top, the Separatist forces had completely surrendered, at least the last few of them that still remained. You may think winning this battle was cause for celebration, but in the minds of the Jedi, they knew that this had squashed the potential for any type of peace negotiation, and the war would continue. Once again, as Captain Rex looked upon his old friend Cutla Quain, he felt that reminiscent feeling he had in the past. What would his life be like without war? What would it be like after this war was over? Only time would tell. In the meantime, he'd choose not to report Cutla Quain for being a deserter, and instead he'd allow him to live his life out as a farmer with his family. Although this was a win for the Republic, and seemingly a good thing, the dark forces at play had truly won. Palpatine got his way, and his plan to get rid of the Jedi was still in full effect. Order 66 would happen. Well, folks, on that note, that's going to wrap up the Clone Wars mock building series. Hope you guys enjoyed the way I did this finale. Honestly, took a lot of work, and I really had to test out my storytelling abilities. I hope I painted a cool picture for you guys and showcased this mock in a way that was entertaining and fun for you to watch. I also want to extend a massive thank you to all those of you who supported the channel throughout the series. There were 16 episodes over the course of about 5 months, and so many of you supported it by sharing comments and liking the videos, and just with your viewership, I really appreciate it, and it helps motivate me with projects going forward. Now, if you like Star Wars Lego content like this, definitely consider subscribing because I have a bunch of projects lined up for the future months. I'm going to leave this built for a bit, and then once I finally get it taken apart and I have those parts in my inventory again, I can move on to build projects and different mocks that I've been planning for quite a while. Anyways, guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.